Hi, I'm Matt Smith. Well, I've been playing guitar for about 40 years, which is hard to do when you're 27. But if you want to learn more about me, please check out my website, mattsmithsworld.com. So what I want to do today is I'm going to show you how to play 5 different tunings for the price of one. And this is a concept that I learned from Martin Simpson, who's a great guitar player from the British Isles. And a wonderful man, and thank you, Martin. And anyway, so this is the concept. What it is helped me tremendously to understand how to play not only in open tunings, but the organizational properties of it, but also how to play almost any other instrument that's tuned to a chord. For example, the banjo is tuned to a chord, much to the chagrin of your neighbors. All right? So be careful with your banjos. Don't get me started on banjo jokes. But for example, other instruments like the Cuban instrument, the trace, anything that's tuned to a chord, you can use these same shapes. And the great thing about it is that once you learn, for example, D tuning, you get 5 tunings for the price of one. And this is how that works. Basically, by the way, if you want to know more about this stuff, you can check out my lessons on Workshop Live, or you can check out my book on Workshop Arts publication, Matt Smith's Chop Shop, which is all available to you for a nominal fee. Anyway, so this is how it works. Basically, I'm tuned to D tuning again, which is D, 6th string down to D, which is important to know that, because if you try to tune your 6th string up to D, you'll probably need protective goggles. So try to tune it down to D. The A string stays at A, 4th string stays at D, 3rd string stays at F, well, actually it's tuned down to F sharp, the 2nd string is tuned down to A, and the 1st string is tuned down to D. You have the notes of a D major chord, D, F sharp, and A. D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. Now, the great thing about open tunings, when you play a bar chord, you know you can play this as a G bar chord. You tune this to A. That's an A chord, but it's the same shape. You just move them up and down the neck. The brilliant thing about tunings is they move across the neck like this. So once you learn how to play an open tuning, you can actually move it up and down the neck to play anything. For example, if you're in D tuning and you play it open, that's a D chord. If I play an E chord shape in D tuning, I get an E minor chord with extra stuff. And then if I move that same chord shape up 2 frets, I get an F sharp minor chord with extra stuff. Now I'm playing the shape of an A chord at the 5th fret, and I get a G chord. I know that's confusing. It's an A chord shape, but at the 5th fret on the 6th and the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings, and I play all the rest of the strings open, I get a G chord with some extra stuff. I take that same A chord shape on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings, and I move it up to the 7th fret, and I get an A chord with extra stuff. Then I take an E chord shape again at the 8th and 9th frets, and I get a B minor triad, actually a B minor chord with extra stuff. And then I take the same shape of a D chord, which is the 10th fret on the 5th string, the 11th fret on the 4th string, and the 10th fret on the 3rd string. And if I play that with the open strings, I get a C sharp diminished. And then if I play at the 12th fret right across, I get a D chord. And basically what this is, it sounds like this. Now, what is that? That's the harmonized major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And why is that cool, you may be asking yourself. Why, Matt Smith, should I bother with open tunings when I'm still struggling with the one I already know? This is why. I'm going back to standard tuning. Okay, now say for example you're with a bunch of people. You're playing at school, you're playing at church, you're playing with your band, and you're recording at home or whatever. You have a song in the key of D. You got a D chord, you got a G chord, you got an A chord, maybe a B minor, maybe an even an E minor, then an A, and a D. Now, while the rest of you guys are all strumming that stuff and sounding like you're in a Grateful Dead parking lot jam, you, with your newfound knowledge of open tunings, are now playing the same chords like this. As I showed you before, you have a D chord, you have a G chord, you have an A chord, you have a B minor, you have an E minor, then a G. Now I ask you, who's the cooler guitar player? So that's why you should learn open tunings. Secondly, if you're a songwriter, and like I am, I've been writing songs ever since I learned how to play guitar. It's one of those things that it makes it sound beautiful. It really does. It's a beautiful sounding thing. It'll bring you songs. Now, here's what I was talking about. In D tuning, we use that. Remember, we just used those open E chord shape, E chord shape, A chord shape, A chord shape, E chord shape, D chord shape. Now, say for example, I go to G tuning. G tuning. Now, the great thing about this, I don't have to relearn the guitar. I can play the exact same chord shapes I just showed you. By the way, the guitar is now tuned. The 6th string is down to D. The 5th string is down to G. The 4th string stays at D. The 3rd string stays at G. The 2nd string stays at B. And the 1st string is tuned down to D. So now I have this chord. Now, watch what happens. If what Matt Smith says is true, and by the way, if I ever call myself in the third person again, smack me in the head. All right? So if I have this, if what I said was true, you should be able to just drop these chords down one string, and you'll have all the chords in the key of G in G tuning. There's that E chord shape. If I take an E chord shape and drop it down a string, it becomes like an A minor chord, but it's still the same chord shape. I just dropped it a string towards the floor. And I can play all the chords in the key of G. Now, that's pretty cool so far, right? Now, D and E tuning are identical. D was D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. E tuning is just E, B, E, G sharp, B, E, which is just the same tuning, only raised up a whole step. G and A tuning have that same exact relationship. So now, G tuning that I'm in now is D, G, D, G, B, D. And then A tuning is the same tuning, only it's as if it's capoed on 2nd fret. It's E, A, C sharp, E. So that gives me four tunings right there. By the way, in C tuning, or G tuning, sorry, if you want to play 90% of the Rolling Stones hits, you only need to know these two chords. You learn those two chords and you can play like almost every Rolling Stones hit ever. Never has been more money made by two chords than these. Just go ahead and mess around with it, slide it around. You can play Brown Sugar. Can't You Hear Me Knocking? A million, Street Fighting Man. There's a million of great songs like that. Now, getting back to my original concept for C tuning, you got C, G, C on the 4th string, G, C, and E. So the 6th string is now tuned all the way to C. The 5th string is down to G. The 4th string is down to C. C. And the 3rd string stays at G. The 2nd string is tuned up to C. And the 1st string stays at E. Now, guess what? I can do all the same things again. D and E tuning was that E chord shape. G and A tuning was that A minor chord shape. Now, I just drop it down to the first 3 strings and I can play on all the same shapes again. Plus, for those of you that love to rock, almost every pair of strings here is a power chord. I think I'm too mellow to rock now like that. I'm just like, I have to rock gently. Yeah, that's right. Because what happens when you turn 30, the little fold of skin that holds your brain to your skull disappears, and that's why you can't go on rides that twirl around anymore, and you can't bang your head like that because you get dizzy and fall over. Anyway, I'm Matt Smith. Come and check me out at Matt Smith's World. I'd like to thank my friends at Ovation Guitars and you guys for spending a few minutes with me. Enjoy.